welcome to Heartlines. This is our space where we discuss everything relationship and love. I'm your host, Franca. Tonight on the show with me today, I have hmm, two amazing guys. Amazing guys. Sheyi, Ilesomi.
The way you introduce me, like somebody new, I like it. Like I'm new every show.
You're new every show. And then I have Sir Joe, Barrister Joe. Sir Joe, are you there?
I'm here. Good evening.
Sajo, good evening. In fact, Sajo is on the show with us every day, so
That's
we
good.
don't have a special day for Sajo anymore. Some days he sneaks in, and some days he's our regular guest. Sajo, how far? How
You
market?
know why I'm doing all of this? You know
I
why I'm
know,
doing all of this?
I
So that
know,
when I run away,
I
you
know,
would you
I
understand.
know.
I gave my all when
You
I
gave your
could.
all when you were around. I know, I know. Sajo, how market?
We don't trade.
What do we do?
Service to humanity.
Okay. How is the service to humanity?
We're striving.
Not so. So tonight on the show, we're discussing long distance relationship challenges and success strategies. That's why I like that Sajo is on the show. He's going to break it down for us.
Why?
You know why. I don't have to say it, but you know why. Long distance relationship. How does it work? And Sajo,
When I say Sergio gets experience.
Okay.
he has experience in this, special experience. I've had to stay. I think I spent about 6 hours with him one day, and he has a very, very funny schedule, interesting schedule. So Sajo, we're waiting.
Let's draw from your wealth of experience.
Yeah.
Now, what exactly is your question?
Sajo, long distance relationships. What are the challenges and the success strategies? How does it work? How do we make it? What are the challenges and what are the things to make it work? Strategies to make it work.
Okay. First, you would permit me to start by saying that it is not and it should not be anybody's desire to have long distance relationship. But of course, with the present situation in our country,
Okay.
the Jackpot syndrome has become
Enorm.
accepted by those who can afford it. So you are in a situation where you find a lot of long distance marriages. Let me be more specific. Now, what are the challenges? The challenges abound. There's the lack of intimacy challenge. There's a trust issue. There's the need for sustaining quality conversations. And for some who are on the other side of the globe, extreme, you could also have issues with your timing and all of that. So there are very serious challenges. And the ways to manage it for me is just communication, and
Okay.
strategic communication.
What do you
Now,
Okay.
you see?
No, I was going to ask, what do you mean by strategic communication?
Now, you must be present. Though you're not physically, you must be emotionally present for your spouse and for your family in every way you can. I'll give you an instance. I have my kids and my wife in Canada, for instance. And whether I'm in the courtroom or not, once it is 5 minutes past 6, I must call my two elder sons, the older sons, wake them up, have a morning prep talk with them, ensure they are ready to go to school, and then I could take a break. 1 hour later, I will call my younger son, do the same with him, and then we'll continue like that. Then I would have finished my morning duties. If my wife is free, I will have conversation with her, ask her how she has found her day and what she has to do throughout the day. The challenges, of course, you discuss the challenges she's facing. You listen, you advise, you protect, you provide, and you do everything you can as though you are physically present, then again, you can no longer have the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock sleep time, depending on the time of the year. You know, if it's their timing in winter is different from their timing in spring and summer. So it's a willingness to make those sacrifices of presence, emotional presence, even when you're not physically able to be present. And then you must also try and ensure that you're physically present within your means. Some of us will have to run out of this country every 3 months to go and show presence so that you do not keep them in lack for too long. And also,
Okay.
you do not be in lack for too long, because it is in that state of lack that the temptations will begin to abound
Okay.
here and also there for them.
Okay. But so, Sergio, in your experience, would you say it is a good or bad? So would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend long distance relationships aside the economy part?
Now, I'm not sure I'm the person to advise, because I do not think anything is bad. Neither do I think anything is good. I just think that things happen for a time, and if it works for you, fine. If it doesn't work for you, fix it. Personally, it has worked for me, and it's a good decision for me. It's a good decision for me, though it's not what I would have loved to have, but it is better than having them here in the Nigerian situation.
Okay. But there's some downsides to it, like you're a bachelor.
Oh,
The last time
a
I
lot,
checked.
a lot, a lot. No, I'm not a bachelor. I'm still very
You're
married.
living like a
But
bachelor. Okay.
of course, there are a lot of downs to it. There are days you are just miserable. There are days you are needy. There are days you just feel empty and hollow. You know, but of course, when you remind yourself that the reason you are going through this pain is for the better future you plan for your kids, and you remind yourself that it will all end up in praise, then you soldier on.
Yeah.
But wait,
There,
wait
there, are,
something.
there are very difficult times. I must say that to you. Very, very difficult times.
He's in Nigeria. Okay, so I get it. That's why I like that you're in this conversation, because people just generally feel that, with long distance relationship it would not work, particularly because of sex and needs and all, like personal needs. But at least they say sex very important. And then I also think that because is working for Sergio because he can afford to go every 3 months, you know. But if you're not able to go every 3 months, or if your needs can't wait for 3 months, what happens?
So the question is to me,
Yeah,
right?
to you, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
So
if
for
you were
me,
in that situation,
let's be honest, right? Even as married couple, how many times do you really have this sex that we scream about? You understand? I think it's more of companionship. And right now, the technology has made companionship so easy because sometimes you are so in touch with somebody that you don't necessarily realize that they are physically not there. I will give you an example. My wife used to have a friend who, our boyfriend that time, was in America and she was in Nigeria.
okay,
And they eventually got married.
okay,
But when they were still dating, right? Yemisi would be with, oh, sorry, I called her name. She would be with all of us. And she could be on the phone from morning till night. She's still doing everything with us, where everybody's still together. And is practically on the phone
okay,
throughout the entire thing, to the point that he knows every single thing she's doing at every single time. Do you understand? There was almost, the communication was even better than some people that lived together. Just because,
they were intentional.
yeah, just because he's available, he's always there, Sometimes we'll be like, are you guys still on the call? And she'll be like, yeah, he's there. And he will be at work, probably just plug in his AirPod. And they're not even talking, but he knows every single thing. Not because he's
He's trying
insisting
to monitor or anything.
nothing.
It was just because he felt he was comfortable with her
just the
company.
communication, and eventually they got married. They, she's relocated. They are together now, and that distance was never affected their relationship at any point. I also use myself as an example. The time I knew I was going to marry my wife, I was eventually sure, was when a little bit of distance came in between. She went for masters, and I was in Nigeria, and for a whole year, we were constantly in communication, and I honestly didn't feel like anything was missing. But by the time that whole period was done, I knew that this girl, forget. After this period, though, we're getting married.
How many times did you go to London?
I never went. So that was the thing. I never went because there was no opportunity to go during that period. And okay, she did something shocking. There was one weekend.
You told me to get surprised. That's why I've been laughing.
There was one weekend, Saturday morning or Sunday morning. She came from London, random, and just came to surprise me and just opened the door. It's part of intentionality. Like, if you didn't trust me enough to make that move, or if we were not in constant communication, or if there was a bit of a break in communication, I don't think any person would travel from London to come and pay
Your heart not drop when you see her for your door.
a surprise. I was just,
Shehi, your
intrigued.
heart did not drop.
My heart did not drop. I was just intrigued. I was just like, how you take that? And it was an overnight thing. So first thing in the morning, she was like at my door and I opened the door.
And you guys would have been chatting the night before.
So it was like overnight, straight, and I think a year after that period or so we got married, because at that point it was like, I beg, nothing there again, So it kind of built trust, that period that we were away. It built trust that, I can be away, I can leave this man, and I can still vouch that he's still there and all that. But then again, I also have a not so good experience about it.
So, but before you continue, Shay, when you say it builds trust, I don't think that's what it is. It doesn't build trust. You already have built trust
before then.
then.
I guess so.
Because you see this word trust there, it's funny. I don't know why people don't understand that. You have to work. Trust is not just, you just tell somebody to trust you. No. You earn it.
It's hard. You work
for it. You have to earn it. So it's not about, so let me tell you the truth. If you're not communicating properly, or even while communicating, there are lapses and there are gaps in your stories, it would just automatically give room for doubt. Do you understand? If I call you and then you don't pick up, I'm wondering why is it not picking up? Whether you like it or not, even if I haven't caught you doing anything. If I call you on video call, if we're talking and I say, oh, put on a video call, and you're not comfortable, put on you don't. So you build trust. Whoever it is has to earn it. A lot of people don't understand that. Why communicating? Sometimes people communicate so they get you comfortable. If I tell you, so if we're partners now, and I tell you, oh, Shay, I'm going to the salon, I'm not telling you because I want you to. I'm not telling you because just for telling sake. I want you to know where I am. So you know where I am. You can come and meet me anytime. That's building trust. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I can take my phone. I want to be able to drop my phone. No big deal. So, but the minute I see you, you're with me and your phone is always like this, unconsciously.
Yeah.
You're just, alerting the CID, you understand, being an FBI talent in me. Because I'm like, okay, so why is he doing this? Why? And I think it's just normal for everybody. Why I was smiling, why I wanted Sergio to start, to say something about it, because like I said, I spent 6 hours. Was it 6 or, in fact, we ended up spending like 7 hours that day or thereabout. So I was with him. We have this ritual where we have coffee every morning. I think once a week or twice a week. Where we'll I'm always tapping. He's my mentor. I'm always tapping from his. So we met and we were talking. I was watching him. There's a time to, even in the deep conversation, the phone would beep. He knows when the phone beeps, he checks the time. He knows who to call. So he's the one waking up the kids in Canada to go to school. He will call the first two, tell them to go have their bath. Trust me, at that time, their mom is sleeping. So those children don't miss that their dad is not in the house. Their mom is sleeping.
That's hard work.
That's hard work. Their mom is sleeping. Their dad is waking them up from sleep to go have their bath to go to work, to go to school. He tells them, oh yeah, get into the bathroom and have your bath. When they do that, he calls another 1 hour later. I see him, I was just watching him, and in another 1 hour, he would call again, and talk to the younger one. And you hear him say, Daddy loves you, blah, blah, blah. The other one go and they will gossip, and then they go to school. He will not take his time to pamper his wife. In fact, that one he will say, Franca, please, you need to excuse me. That one, because they want to talk, Ashe will talk. That period, they want to talk, you understand? So, but he's intentional. So you can imagine him setting the time on his phone and then so in the middle of a very serious conversation, that phone would beep. And then when they have crisis, do you understand? And there's no time. So imagine if he wasn't intentional, and then maybe when the wife picks, he doesn't have time. He's distracted. The woman will start feeling that this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
So it takes for people to be intentional for certain things to work. And then if you decide not to call, the woman herself go there and say, before you know, you're drifting apart. But one person will just think, oh, it's one person's fault or it's not the other person's. You have to be intentional whether you like it or not.
I have a story.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I've shared it with you.
Okay, no.
But for the most part of my life, my dad and my mom never lived together.
Oh, you haven't told me that part of the story.
Because my dad used to work for NEPA. He used to be an engineer for the dam. So his job...
I'm really stressing to hear shit.
Oh.
I don't know if it's his mic.
Is his mic?
Because I'm actually facing the mic.
Okay.
Nobody can blame me for not.
Okay.
So
can you hear better now?
Can you hear?
I can hear him.
Okay.
So I was saying that my own story about long distance is, it's quite a story. For the most part of my life growing up, my dad and my mom didn't used to live together because my dad is an engineer with NEPA. He used to, work different places, Kenji today, Jeba tomorrow. And that time there was no phones. Do you know what this man does every month? He drives from anywhere he is in Nigeria and drives home every month. And maybe growing up, he retired like that, let me say. And it was a tough, but they made it work. It was crazy.
No, it's tough. It's really tough, but it works because I think anybody who grew up at that time, my dad used to be a civil engineer. My dad is late. He was a civil engineer. He worked in Gofanti. If you know Lagos very well, he worked in Gofanti. So they used to build all the major roads. So for a very long time, in fact, that's how I ended up in Benin, because we used to be in Lagos. And then my parents were looking for a middle ground.
Same story.
You understand? So my parents were looking for a middle ground where my father would just come from, he didn't have to travel all the way to Lagos. So my dad was in Benue. At that time, they built those long roads. For a while, he was in Ore. So that's how we got to Benin. So my parents now said, my mom, oh, Benin looks good. At that time, this was like, early 80s, I think around 82. And my mom said, oh, Benin, I think around that time, my dad was in Ore. We went from Ifo to Lagos, and then we're in Lagos for a while, and then they eventually went to... So when my dad was in Ore, my mom now said, okay, you know what, Benin looks good. There's a university in Benin. So that's how we settled in Benin. So my dad was in Ore. It was easy for my dad to come home. So my dad, I grew up I grew up never living with my dad. So my dad would leave every Monday and come back every Friday. My dad used to leave Benue every Friday. My dad never missed coming home every
Same
Friday.
here.
And then he would take us to school on Monday morning.
Yes, and from
and
there
then go back to
same,
Benue.
same thing here.
So it was like that for as long. My dad, as far as I can remember, daddy was in Gofranti and retired in Gofranti.
Same here.
You know. So, and then we used to look forward to my dad to come every Friday because my mom, as much as my dad was never around, my mom, they used to go to the market. So my dad would shop, because he was in the north. So he would come with yam, alligator. He would shop, when you're coming home to see your family. And then he would shop for those. So my dad was that kind of person. So they made it work. But I also think there were lapses.
No, I think you didn't allow me finish. I was getting to the negative
side of it. Yes.
The negative side of it. So, for me, we didn't used to look forward to my dad coming.
Why?
Because my dad was overcompensating his absence with discipline. When man feels, say, these children are soft, they've been with their mother for so long. At some point, I started living with my dad because I am the firstborn, and it was like, no, one of them has to come and stay with me just to have a semblance of I have somebody with me. So I was a sacrificial lamb, and I started staying with my dad. But before then, yes, and I kind of, it wasn't too good for me because I felt like I was deprived of my childhood because my dad was very strict, very like this, no birthdays, nothing, and I grew up like that. So it was very tough.
How long did you live with your dad?
Like 3-4 years.
So
in primary school.
But no birthdays.
I'm not talking secondary school.
But when you came back, you started having birthdays.
I went into boarding house.
You still do birthdays in boarding house
No.
now?
It was not like that birthday.
But when your dad comes every month, so you didn't used to come home with him?
No, we came together.
Okay.
Fridays we came together, Mondays. So they knew me in school that my Mondays is, so we leave like 6 a.m. wherever we are because my parents settled in Oshogbo.
Okay.
Because it felt like Lagos too far. Oshogbo is also around somewhere you can easily, not too far from the, so that kind of thing. But the flip side of it was there were a couple of things that they didn't get used to because they didn't used to live together. There were things that if they had lived together in their early stages of their life, they would have been used to it. They would have found the ways to walk around those things. But because they never stayed together, everybody kind of had their own individual nature, their individual space. Coming together, now start bringing clashes in a way like, this is how I do my thing.
No, yes,
this is how I do my thing.
Independence. Your mom did not have any to answer to anybody. So every month, she knows your dad will come every month, once every month. That 1 month, she would manage, she would just endure.
And my dad also was not used to people being in his space. My dad is a loner, like no friends. My dad can be in his room from morning till night.
And your mama na jaye.
My mama na get family, get thing, So that kind of the later stages of their life, the hurdles that they should have crossed if they lived together, came up later in life, and I saw, and it wasn't too good like that. And the thing is, it affected us because my brother or we, if you bring up anything about staying away from family, my brother took a pay cut because his family also is in Canada. He was working he was flying for some people in Cotonou, right? And they were paying him more than if he had relocated to Canada. He took a pay cut and went to Canada. That's the life that my father lived. I'm not going to live it.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, he took a pay cut. And he was like, no. Even it was like maybe less than like double. He took a pay cut.
And you too. I noticed you're the one who does more of the things for the kids.
Yeah, me too. I don't like it's not negotiable because I kind of have an idea of, some things that we missed growing up. And because of my dad started overcompensating for not being around. So, and the Friday he comes, he's disciplined, is let me put some sanity into these guys, and it was overdoing it. So the memories you have of the man are memories of that is coming, everybody run, go and hide. That is coming, you don't want to.
But I think it was
You
the same
you don't
thing.
you want to be of best behavior for Friday to Sunday. And Monday when he goes, everybody is,
God.
thank God, oh, he has gone. I don't, growing up, you think that is you think that your dad is too strict, but
now you see that he
he's
wasn't really doing anything.
He was just overcompensating for the absence of not being around and try to impose that fatherly figure and make you guys, be odd. So there's a good side
And there's a negative,
and there's a
bad
negative side.
Okay.
And those were people that even tried to make it work. I don't think that thing is going to work for anybody in this generation.
Oh, we don't know. Sajo them.
Oh, okay, them. Sajo, they are navigating
Sajo, but
it.
Sajo, do you do anything like overcompensating now that because you're not around? Is Sajo there? Sajo, I think you're muted. Okay, Sajo, I think Sajo is frozen. So the truth is, I think it's for everybody, because even growing up, because we knew our dad would come every Friday, if they play outside,
will run inside.
Another guy 4-5. But you see, but then because we were
the
young,
story is so similar.
Yeah, it's similar, but because we were younger, so my dad had a timetable for everybody. If my dad is around, you must sleep. My mom didn't care.
Yeah.
My mom didn't care about siesta and those kind of things. But so we got used to it. But guess what? Even at that, because my dad was coming every weekend, he would bring plenty food and everything.
So you're happy.
Everybody were happy. So, but even that, so you just make sure your mom doesn't report you. So I don't know about you, but my mom will not say anything.
My mom too will not say anything.
She will not say anything from Monday to Friday. Once my dad comes like this, she will now report everybody's. So if you know you have messed up,
you ready collect.
Just ready so you go collect, So at that point, so for us, it was just, don't do anything silly, because your mom will tell your dad. And then when your dad comes, so for my dad now, very family. My dad is not a loner. So when my dad comes, he wants to play, he wants to do those things, then he has brothers, he wants to go out. So my dad was always in between, because really, when I see relationship with other people and their dad, mine's different. When my dad calls me, he'll say, Franca, how far? That's how I speak to my dad. And then we speak pidgin English, daddy, I beg, not call me now. That's the kind of relationship I had with my dad. And my other siblings too, we could gossip about my mom. My dad would tell me things. So we had that very good conversation. My dad used to be a jolly good fellow, So I would not say my dad overcompensated. No, so yes, he compensated, but in a good way, not being strict. Because I used to look forward to my dad, because it's only when my dad is around I want to fall ill. I remember growing up, I would not fall ill when my mom is around, because the first thing she would do is take me to the hospital to give me injection. But if my dad is around, I will fall ill, my dad will carry me, I'll go and buy suya, I'll get a new shoe, I'll get new clothes, things like that. So my dad tried to manage. Yes.
Yeah,
but if you ask my brother, so maybe because I was a girl, or maybe because I'm a girl, not was. So maybe because I'm a girl, he was different. And then I'm the first, But my younger brother, who is the first boy, has a different narrative of my father. Him and my dad didn't used to get along. He felt my dad was too strict. In fact, my brothers think my dad was too strict with them. But me, I not see. But my dad used to, I feel my mom is, for me, if you ask me and my mom, my dad, I'll tell my mom is wicked, my dad is nice, Okay, so Pastor Joe, I was asking a question. Shay was saying something about overcompensating, because the dad was overcompensating because he was not around most of the time. Do you experience that? Do you kind of overcompensate because you're not around?
No.
Unknowingly.
Why should I overcompensate? And frankly, I do not feel I'm not around.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel I'm maybe not physically present there.
Yes.
But because I communicate with them daily, and I'm able to go through their daily development, and we have our fights, we have our quarrels, we have our laughs, we have our plays. There's really nothing to compensate. And from the very beginning of, for the earliest hours of my marriage, we had a clear path where we had an understanding that, you know what, these children will try to manipulate either of us. So when my wife takes a stand, I stick by that. And when I take a stand, she's like, we know the part of raising the kids that we have superior position. So if she says on this aspect, I do not delve into that. Okay, that's your tough. Deal with it. If you need my support, you have it. And if it's on my part of the discipline part, she will say, okay, you know what, you do your thing. So we've never had that conflict.
Okay.
And I'm not sure the kids think this is daddy or this is mommy's decision. Because if you ask my children, they'll say, leave them, don't go there. Don't try and convince daddy. Once mommy has told him, they will both go into the room and they will agree, and then we are the different group here. So I've never had reason to overcompensate anybody.
No, Sheyi is using the word overcompensate because he wants to make it sound nice. He doesn't want to say the dad was wicked.
No.
So he's saying the daddy he doesn't want to say the dad was strict. That's why you're using the word overcompensate.
No, strict is the word, to be honest.
Because of my spirituality, I do not think I've had reason to be extreme in anything I do. I can deliberately watch my kids make mistakes, and I will sit down and have that discussion of the key learnings. Okay, now I told you to do this. You decided to do this. I kept quiet so that you do this. I knew this is the result that you get from this act. Now that you have gotten there, let's have a conversation. What do you think you have learned from this? Now that is not my wife's approach. She's more of the Babati type, you know? So it is easier for them to come back to me and have those conversations when the need arises. And I think it's easier for me to communicate with them.
Sajo, see the way you made it sound so easy and nice. I say because of his spiritual. See the way he said, no sense I come office. Say because of his spirituality. One day I was with him. The children did something. He said that they fear. You know, fear. They fear. And him now, wicked father, was speaking very calm. You know what you did? I've heard everything you did, but I won't discuss it. We'll have a conversation. You know when they put fear for the children body?
Exactly.
You say waiting.
No.
What?
See, let me tell you something.
Uh-huh.
From the age 5, I'm very intentional with raising kids. You know, the first thing every of my son will tell you is the law of causation. That there's cause and effect. If you do this, there's a resultant effect attached to it. So I do not engage in some discussions. I was okay, you know you did X, Y, Z, and you know that this is what will happen. How do you want to serve your punishment? And when are you ready for it? And you will serve it. You will, of course, if you can't take the pain, how do they say that? You can't what's the word now? Now, but you know that once you do right, you get daddy's reward, and once you do wrong, you naturally get punished. And that's not because I'm angry. That's just because that is what nature puts forth.
Sajo, I hear you.
You know, one of the things.
So you will hardly hear me shout. And if shouting is what they call discipline, that will not be me. But I will ensure you face the consequences of your action. And when you're done with it, you will be grateful that you'll be grateful that you're punished for your wrongdoing. Because you will learn.
Okay.
You know, the first thing I said was technology has made it so
easy. Yes.
You know, my dad's time, maybe if there was phones and all those things available
Things would
at
have
that
been a
time,
lot easier,
maybe
yes.
things would have been a lot easier.
I agree. I agree.
Communication would have been much more better.
No, I totally agree.
You know.
Okay, so let's go on the
Now
break.
there's
Okay, Sergio, I know, Sergio, please hold your thought. Let's quickly go on the break. When we come back, we'll take.
Stay tuned. Heartlines will be right back.
This season on Heartlines, we're committed to making a difference in people's lives. So Heartlines, in partnership with Reda Consult, is offering 12 free slots of counseling every quarter for people in need of professional counseling. Additionally, we're taking on 2 pro bono cases for individuals navigating a challenging divorce. To participate, please send an email to counsel@vedaconsult.com with your story. Our team will carefully review all submissions and will contact all the shortlisted candidates. Heartlines is live Mondays to Fridays at 10 p.m., so engage with us.
Thanks for staying with us on Heartlines.
Please note that you can share your story with us via WhatsApp number 08190384663 or call in to join on the conversation. Call in to join in the conversation on 070-2500-7749 or 070-1424-2420. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the official Upgrade TV, and then you can also watch us online or watch us live on DSTV, Go TV, and Star Times. Okay, Sergio, you were about to say something before we went on the break.
Yeah, I was going to say that much as improved communication has helped, it also has created problems for parenting. You know, the time where in the 80s that you and she was speaking about or referring to, kids were not raised by parents alone.
True.
Kids were raised by the entire community. And then Nigeria was a beautiful place to live in. You know, it's not the Nigeria of today, and it's not. It could have been worse. I mean, without drawing those comparisons, we had the benefit of communication and the negatives of communication put against the society we lived in the 80s and into the early 90s. I think parenting then was easier because it was a community thing to do. Everybody was interested in every child out there on the streets. But now it's you and you alone. And then for those who are in distant relationships, particularly those who are in the West, it's even tougher because you are battling culture. Let me give you an instance. Now, you have kids who are Nigerians, of course, so naturally they're super brilliant. And then you have not faced racism because you grew up here. You do not understand how someone walks up to you and hates you because you're black. And your son comes back from school and he's saying, oh, XYZ called me this called me that because of my color or because of my accent. And you're having to prepare that child emotionally and psychologically to live with that reality while navigating his developmental states. You know, now you're trying to give what you do not have. So you will not start learning afresh how a black man will live in the West and how he will be able to face the challenges of racism and hate crimes and all of that just for the reason that he's a particular color. And then you begin to imbibe that on your children. So it's a little more complex now. Much as communication has helped, it's a little more, it's even more complex, not just a little, it's harder, I think, and I strongly believe it's harder.
So that means long distance relationship would affect your
Kids.
raising children.
In so many ways, yeah.
Okay.
because social media and this thing, they are teachers on their own right now. You know, there's so many things you teach that they will unlearn through, you know, access to all these things
Social media and all
and
those
things
things.
that they will pick up that you, because right now the world is such that you spend more time on the phone than one on one. So if you're not careful, the biggest influence is going to be whatever you see with the thing that you spend the most time.
Okay, so I think our conversation so far has been navigating through the positive side of this thing, because trust me, there are a lot of negatives to long distance. So the way what we experienced with our parents growing up affected some other children negatively.
Oh yes, yes.
So because there was no fatherly figure, it affected the relationship between the father and the mother, which now transcended to the children. And you now find out that in a home there's no love. Do you understand? Because I don't want to make it about the long. I don't know if it's part of long distance, but you find out that husbands and wife didn't create a bond or connection because they were living apart. And then, the man wants to, because maybe the man feels that he has to oppress the wife to be in control because he's not there for respect and all that. So put this fear in her so that she's not able to cheat or she's not able to do certain things, and it affected the home. So you find out that siblings are separated because some part of the siblings are on this side, some part are on this side. So the home is divided. That's a downside to it. And then there's also there's also the part of trust. Cheating, because not everybody is like Sajo or you that stayed in Nigeria for a year and you not knack and you not feel bad. Do you understand? Stop frowning.
No, we are having, I'm serious with all this conversation.
Leave it. But like, as initially I said that you need to have money to like do the things Sajo does by traveling and all that. So
It's not money. No. It's not money, Franca, because I do not have money at all.
Sajo, it's money.
Yes.
You know why?
Yes.
Sajo, let me tell you,
You
why I say
travel
it's
every
money.
3 months.
Sajo, you know why I say it's money? Even if you don't have it, you get where to collect them from. You get where. There are people that want to travel. Circumstances. Some people want to travel twice a year, but they can't afford it.
But let me say this, right?
I'll send it to you.
If you do not have the means, you see, we can have this conversation all through the night and continually be in denial. The mind longs for what the mind needs. The body could be lonely, and there could be insecurity, there could be jealousy. Whether we admit it or not, there are some hours where issues of doubt creeps in and trust creeps in. If you do not have the means to continually do those trips and allay those fears, long distance marriage will not work. It will not work for you, because if you get a point. I mean, my philosophy is that something must give, right? Once you are involved in this situation, it could be short term, it could be long term. You must have a clear pathway of how you intend to solve those problems. You know yourself and you know your spouse. You know how far they can go and you know how far you can go. You can deceive yourself that, I'll do 1 year. You cannot do 1 year. You cannot.
Shay did it.
It's easier for...
No, I was even going to send you.
It's easier for a priest. We're not discussing Shay here. It's easier for a priest who has not tasted sexual interaction to stay celibate than one who has gone that route to begin to attempt celibacy. Beyond sex, there are times of loneliness and loneliness.
True.
That will hit you so badly that even the church will be distant. You know, and then if you do not have those mechanisms in place and you're not truthful to yourself, is that not just you? You can say, okay, this is who I am. I can do 6 months, I can do 5 months. But this is not about you anymore. What about your partner? What about your spouse? Does he or she have the same capacity with you? Can she do 6 months? Do you owe him a duty when he can no longer do that length? Or do you owe her a duty when she cannot take that much? How do you reassure her that, okay, things are still the way they are? Now, in my case, briefly, that sometimes I'm in court. You know, sometimes you go to court and court sits by 9, and then at that 11:05 now, because this is spring, so I think there are 5 hours. At 11:05, they are calling your matter. Like today, I was addressing the court when my phone was beeping. Luckily, it was the first call for the day, and I knew that I had an opening of 30 minutes to make up for that call. What if it was the third? Or what if it was Madam calling? Yes, you were in court. First day you were in court. Second day you were in court. Third day you were in court. Even if she trusts you, she'll begin to worry, okay. And there could be a very important discussion she wants to have at that time that will help her take a decision that will impact on everybody's life at that particular time. And you're not there to engage. And then she used her one head where she could have used 2 good heads to arrive at a better decision. And then it fails. So it's you have to be very intentional. And it's a very difficult thing. You have to be very intentional. You can't say, oh, I do not have the capacity. If you do not have the capacity, then do not venture into it. Because the worst thing that happened to you, and I think we're getting close to that. Let me drop one line. The worst thing that happened to you in marriage is to become is to perfect the act of living without your spouse. The moment you are able to achieve that marriage is gone.
Yeah.
So badly that when you want to live together, you can no longer understand how to live as spouses anymore, because you have created your pattern that no longer aligns with his or her pattern.
I think it happened to my parents.
Are you serious?
I mean, they are still together, obviously. But
Because they are old. If they were younger, they would have left each other.
they would have left each other because they got too used to
living apart.
They got so used to living apart. So I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think any of us.
Yeah, because the truth is, we're even saying long distance. Trust me, it's even difficult. Even if you live together, and then your spouse is always traveling,
yes.
It is a problem.
Yes. Not
to talk of, you understand, that travel. If you're married to someone who travels every 2 weeks, there's a problem in that marriage. Except the person who is traveling is transparent, you understand, and is filling in for that gap. Because you would just be like, how are you? You know, something has to give. You have to be present every time.
Once the non-traveling partner becomes comfortable with those trips,
yes,
wahala does start.
Yes. Once that partner can live without you,
so it's not even trips. You can't even be in the same house.
Yeah.
Once your partner can pick up something that, pick up a schedule or pick up something that they absolutely do not need your presence again.
Yes.
It becomes a problem.
And that's when you now start hearing that all you need from me is money.
Or after you don't born for me, finish.
Any other thing. That's what because that's the only time they don't born finish, so they even don't need sex.
That's what I'm saying.
So the only time you now see them having conversations is when something needs to be done.
If your spouse says to you, because that usually comes from men, If your spouse says to you that all you need from me, if you say to your spouse that all you need from me is money, I think the first thing you should do is ask yourself, other than money, what else do I offer to her?
Good. Good things. Beautiful.
Yes, and yeah, and most times, and regrettably so, the only thing most men have to offer is money, and then the only thing most women have to offer is sex.
Their sex, yeah.
So if you take those two elements out of their marriage,
They are not
it
together.
will crumble naturally.
Even though they are living together, they are not together.
No.
Sad.
So that means distance is not just distance.
Distance is not just distance.
Yeah, you can be
in the
together.
house. Yeah, you can be together and be
and
distant.
the distance you have is more than somebody that is in Canada and the other person is here. So it's not even just the physical distance.
When I was giving my opener, I said there are two forms of distance. There's a physical distance and there's an emotional distance. If you are physically apart, you must up your emotional presence
to compensate.
You must be at your A game always. Now, the worst that would happen, you can survive physical distance if the emotional presence is good. But if the emotional distance appears in your marriage, whether you are physically present or not, the marriage is gone like subsidy.
So so basically, wherever you are, whether you are together, whether you are apart, whether you understand, there are few things that need to be in place in your relationship, which is emotions. You need to be involved in your relationship.
Emotionally.
Don't make it about money. Don't make it about sex. Don't make it about. There has to be companionship. Being able to speak. But Sajo, this thing, I think at the end of the day, two people need to work on it, because one person might just get withdrawn because one person is not forthcoming. And meanwhile, the other person is saying, to help because this person is no longer forthcoming. So everybody is putting blame on each other. So at the end of the day, really, because I personally think that if one person is trying and the other person is not,
eventually
the person will get tired.
Yeah.
One person gets tired of
it's
putting
still,
it.
At the end of the day, it's still a two-way system.
It's a two-way system. Long distance, stay in the house, because if I'm trying to call you, you don't want...
I slightly disagree with you in that regard, because yes, it's a two-way thing. Both parties needs to be intentional and contributory. But you see, there are times where your energy is low. A man who is drowning cannot save himself. And if you allow him to drown, the marriage will drown with him. A woman who is drowning cannot save herself. She will need help. So for me, I think you must watch out for those hours where the energy of your partner is at the all-time low. And then help him or her.
Okay, but that's what we said. So if you are not in sync...
It is never a...
It is never a what?
The point I'm making is that it is never a 50-50 contribution in marriage. There are times where you need to give 90, and there are times where you give 100 to sustain the marriage. And there are times where you do not even have 10 to give, and you are dependent on the 90 of your partner. So once you are conscious of the fact that there are times where we can do 50-50, there are times where I need to do 100, then things will work.
Sajo, what if both of you are on 10-10 and each person needs 90-90? What think will happen?
Then first of all, you are not compatible.
Okay, if it's on 10-10, right?
The issue is even consistently.
Yeah,
when somebody is consistently giving 90.
No, you don't get anything remain.
Yeah, you self go tired now.
That's why I say, but they are both 90, so that's why they are on 10-10. Because so somebody is constantly on
90.
Somebody is constantly on 10 and somebody is constantly giving 90.
You go tired now.
You go tired.
The fault is yours. If all you have done in your marriage is give 90, why did
90.
you marry such person?
True.
Who
Okay.
is taking and not giving?
In the person's head, she was trying to manage the marriage. But we have just I think we have just 1 minute left. Shay, you want to say something?
I mean, I've said
Sajo,
everything.
they've said
which-
everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing more to say. Okay, Sajo, we'll see you on Friday. Shay, am I seeing you again this week? Yeah, you're doing Friday. Okay, so please note that you don't have to share your burden alone. Our free counseling services are just a message away. So you can send us an email on counsel@vedaconsult.com and let us deal with whatever it is you're going through. We'll see you tomorrow.